Hello, my cuties, and welcome back. And if you're new here, hi, welcome. The last few months of my life have genuinely felt like an episode out of Grey's Anatomy, but instead of being the doctor, I am instead the patient. Which, super fun. I'd rather be solving mysteries than be the mystery, but here we are. And what I mean by that is I had to figure out what was going wrong with my brain and my skin and my guts and just everything. So for context, I have a rare stomach disease called ulcerative colitis. I have an acute version, so I can go septic very easily. I have gone septic fully twice, and I nearly went septic again this year, so really off to a great track record. The colitis is caused by inflammation in my gut and the ulcers that are in there. Now, in order to try and tame the beasts that are the ulcers, we need to stop the inflammation, which in turn should help a lot of my other conditions, since I have fibromyalgia, which is caused by inflammation as well, and a few other disorders. So I got put on an immunosuppressant, which is basically what it sounds like. It suppresses your immune system. It kind of works similar to chemo in certain ways. Similar to chemo, where it attacks certain parts of your body and weakens you in hopes that it will kind of stop or fix some of the issues. Mine does that. It poisons me in order to nuke my immune system so that hopefully, God willing, I can go about my day. But similarly, I am left extremely drained. Every time I have to get an infusion, my immune system is really, really weak. Like if you are around me and you have a minor cough or cold, yeah, I'm gone, dead to the world, goodbye, which, sucks. Makes leaving the house kind of impossible. I have been currently on 4 different ones. The first one did not work at all. We saw no improvement, really nothing happened. So we tried another one, which worked fantastic. I felt amazing. I felt like I was getting control of my life again. But unfortunately, I live in America, and America requires insurance to get anything medical, ever. It's great. I love it. And if you are not from America, here's kind of how it works. So instead of doctors ruling what you should be taking, the people that went to med school, they instead send this off to the insurance company, and the people working there will say, nah, you're fine. You don't need that. How about you try this thing instead? It's basically the same, except it's not, because it's a completely different chemical compound. And so you go back to the doctors, and then the doctor says, all right, we have to try this instead because insurance said no. Now, if you're lucky, quote unquote lucky, you can appeal and try to get the actual medication that was working for you. But 9 times out of 10, you need proof to insurance on why you need this specific one, which typically involves having to go through multiple different medications to prove that none of them are working, which can be months and possibly years of medication treatment that isn't working and making you sicker, which, yeah, that's really dumb, isn't it? But do you think insurance cares? No, because they're just gonna profit off of it even more. It's a never-ending messed up cycle. Yeah, I love it. Now, I am on a thing called Medicaid, which is stated by the government, and the government pays for all of my medical stuff, which is great, except it's not super amazing. Sometimes mine's been pretty good, except for my dang darn immunosuppressant and trying to get other expensive stuff. Because of my immunosuppressant, it is extremely expensive every single month. A single month's dose is $7,000, which even in the grand scheme of medications is kind of cheap. Unfortunately, that's the worst part. I would get 2 little vials that I would get, and I would take it twice a month. And my insurance said, no, that's too much money. So I had to switch over to a new medication, which boy, did that mess me up. I'm no real stranger to showing my face online at this point. I just don't particularly enjoy showing my face. I'll be quite frank, I have kind of low self-esteem. And I'm not saying that as in a like, I'm trying to fish for compliments way, like just genuinely, it's just been an issue since I was like 12. I've just always had low self-esteem. So I don't really show my face as often, but I have. And in case you have never seen me, this is what I look like normally look like. If I'm using the picture I think I'm going to be using, you can actually see though on my scalp where I have lost some hair and I was slowly going bald because of what happened to me. It's slowly growing back, but I'll get into details soon. So I get put on a new infusion, and every single time I would get it done, I felt horrible. Like, not, I guess, quote unquote normal horrible. It's normal for me. But I wasn't just lethargic and just kind of icky. Like, my stomach hurt, and every time I would have to get the infusions, they would have to give me medication, like other medication for my medication, like Tylenol or ibuprofen, because I'd always get headaches. I would start getting stomach aches. I would get nauseous. And like I said with chemo, because comparing it to the two, that would make more sense. But this is a long-term medication. Like, I'm going to be on this for the rest of my life. So these were a little different. And I complained to my doctor, and he said, just deal with it. This is just how it is. I'm like, okay, whatever. But unfortunately, I could not. So what actually happened was my immune system fought back against it really, really hard. Because when you are giving your body a medication to kill the immune system, you have a pretty good chance of your immune system trying to fight it and saying, oh, no, 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 no. I am designed to exist. How dare you? And then literally try to attack itself, which unfortunately is what happened to me. And my immune system started literally fighting itself and just trying to eat me alive. My skin started breaking out really, really bad. And not in an acne sense. I have psoriasis. And I've always had psoriasis, but it was always small patches, and I was very fortunate for that. Both my parents have it, and I primarily have it on my scalp and around my ears. And it's never been something too horrible to deal with. Again, I'm very, very lucky in that regard. Psoriasis is a super normal thing, but unfortunately, a lot of people can have it everywhere. And I started breaking out everywhere. My face turned bright red. I had these really big open wounds, and they were really, really painful. It felt like my skin was on fire. I couldn't bathe. I couldn't sleep. I was so exhausted from my body trying to just fight itself, and from everything going on, and even just the lack of sleep. Now, as a lot of you know, around this time I started having seizures as well. The stress that my body had gone under was making them a lot worse, which was making sleep even more difficult, which was making them more difficult, which was making it just impossible to do anything. I was in and out of hospital constantly. Basically, the ER knew me at this point by first name, which is a little embarrassing. Now, the biggest fear that had started happening was going septic again. And I was worried about my skin because of all the open wounds. I couldn't even focus on what was going on in my stomach. Around this time, I had lost the ability to eat again. Food was not my friend, and it still isn't, and I'm still recovering from this. Eating is extremely painful, and it would not stay down. Everything. And there was a day where for 8 hours straight, I could not keep food or water down. Nothing. I was delirious and shaky, and I started developing a fever, and I could not properly think for myself. My partner was watching this when he came home from work, terrified for me. And he said, I think we should go to the hospital. I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic. Because around this time, Oregon was having the fires again. And I had just assumed that my stomach was upset from the ash and the fire smell and the smoke, which would kind of make sense, but that was not the case. Unfortunately, what was happening was I was going septic again, and we had to go to the ER very, very soon. We showed up and tried to explain the situation. They ran some blood tests and they held me for the night. And if I did not improve by morning, they were going to send me to the larger hospital to be kept and examined and just make sure I wasn't gonna die. So, third time's a charm, am I right? Woo. Fortunately, I did start improving by morning, but that hasn't lasted long term. They put me on 2 rounds of different antibiotics for the entire night, but my skin continued to get worse, and worse, and worse. By this point, my doctor had completely stopped me from that immunosuppressant and started me on a new one in hopes that finally I would start seeing some kind of peace. But this immunosuppressant can take months to start seeing any kind of effects, which really sucks. I still don't know if it's even working. I have to go in for an endoscopy here soon and get my guts yet again looked at because nothing's working in there properly. But luckily, one of the ER visits, they sent me to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist has been really in my corner trying to help me. But it was an extremely painful couple of months, and I felt miserable. And my self-confidence was just so unbelievably terrible. And I'm still trying to recover from all of that, both physically and mentally. And it's been a process. And I'm unbelievably grateful for the people that commissioned me for being extremely patient. It's why I try to update on my Twitter all the time for what's happening with me health-wise. And if you were ever curious, just check there. Now, I actually want to talk about something, speaking of health-wise. Because my health has been so terrible lately, I have yet again started to lose the ability to walk properly. Not only that, it's just straight up dangerous. I was diagnosed with a neurological disorder recently called FND. It is the root cause of why I started having seizures. Because of that, I will get dystonia and paralysis after them, where I have no control of my limbs. And because of the seizures themselves, I fall. And extreme amounts of pain is a big contender on what causes them because the stress from it ends up creating the episodes. Now, I have been essentially housebound, which for the most part isn't too terrible, considering that, again, my immune system is essentially non-existent, so going out isn't always the safest thing for me. But going and picking up medications, or just trying to do things like a normal person, quote-unquote normal, let's be real, it's just not safe, and it's kind of impossible. So, recently, I had set up a GoFundMe in hopes of funding an electric wheelchair. And if anybody is able to help, that's great. If not, I completely understand. Currently, I am just on the mend, trying to heal and do better and get the medical help that I need. I also reached out to my doctors about possibly getting a wheelchair, and while they are in full support, it's yet again trying to get insurance to okay it. And since I'm on Medicaid, they pay for things in full, which is great. But if they do not see a reason, they will not give it to me. And it's a constant battle with insurance, as many Americans already know. At least right now, my skin's looking a lot better, and I am extremely grateful for that. There is a little bit of permanent damage left over, and as you saw, like I said, my hair started falling out pretty bad, but not as bad as it could be, and I'm very grateful for that. Now it's just trying to figure out how to eat food and hopefully avoiding a feeding tube and any surgeries on my guts. I am sad because I was doing pretty well and I've only declined within the past year or two, but I do have hopes eventually I will be able to climb back up that mountain again. It's just a process. that I have to be patient with, and I can't push myself too hard wanting outcomes immediately, or else I risk falling back and losing all of the progress that I already made. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I hope you are having a good new year. I always say this, but I am sorry for the lack of uploads. I am really hoping to try to get out 1 to 2 videos a month currently. That is my goal. I think that's a very reasonable goal. So that is what I'm gonna try to do. You can see all of my stuff over on the Twitters and the Instagram for my other art, as well as my Patreon, where you can see all my fun new stuff and where you can get thanked like the following. I would love to give a huge thank you to my $5 patrons, Tawny, Desi Quiche, Cube, and Isabel. To my $10 patrons, I don't need no gender, Bun, and Nightmares, hello. And a huge, gigantic, amazing thank you to my $100 patron, Noah. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for watching. I love you all so much. And I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you are all around the world. And don't forget to drink some water. Bye.